Today we're looking at Psalms 137. It's a psalm, again, a little out of time. We're dealing mostly with psalms that come from the time of David and a little bit of Solomon. Once or twice we've gone through something that was from the Babylonian captivity. This would have been after Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Daniel. The northern kingdom has now been taken away into Babylon. Southern kingdom had got taken into Assyria a century before. And so now this one is one that's kind of they are still in Babylon. So it says, by the rivers of Babylon there we sat, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. This one, of course, is going to be very sad, very mournful. You could hear almost a dirge of some kind going behind it. We hung our harps upon the willows in the mist. There's nothing to sing about. We put away our musical instruments. For they that carried us away captive required a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. They're being taunted by the people who have taken them away. Sing us a song. Sing us one of your songs there. Mighty Israelite who followed the one true God. And so, how can we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand lose her cunning. That's an interesting one. Most people are right-handed. Your hand just moves without you knowing it. But if I forget Jerusalem, let my hand forget how to do things. If I don't remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above all my chief joy, it's above everything that I find joy in, is Jerusalem. And if these things happen, let this happen to me, that I lose my love for Zion, the city of God, and the physical city of God, Jerusalem. Oh, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the days of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation. And the word raise there is not to lift up, but grind it down, break it down to its foundations, destroy it, raise it. R-A-Z-E, not R-A-I-S-E. And this last two verses have been very controversial. O daughter of Jerusalem, who art to be destroyed, happy be he that rewardeth thee as thou served us. Happy be he that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Now, I've heard this last one before. They'll say, oh, look how evil. Here's Jews saying it's okay to throw babies against the stone. What they're saying here, and we've seen this before, is when God's judgment on a nation or a group or a person is equal to or a part of how they treated other people. Remember going back to that king in the book of Judges that I've referred to several times, who had his thumbs and his big toe cut off. He goes, that's how I treated the people around me. This never happened, by the way. The Jews never, when the Medo-Persians came in to take Babylon, they didn't dash their little ones against the stone. So this never happened, and nowhere did Jerusalem ever do this after that. Now, there was periods of wiping out the entire nations and the infants, but that was specific for a specific area because of, I hate to say hyper sin, but so much sin, so much degradation that God wanted to wipe them like a plate. But they didn't just kill the babies to kill the babies. They didn't just kill to be murderers. They didn't just slaughter to do that. It was because God wanted the land cleared of these people. And they could have left or they could have joined. They had choices. So here we have, this is the daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed. Happy be ye that reward you as you served us. Reward you as you've served us. This is how you treated us. In other words, this is what the Babylonians had done to the Jews. Now, there's no evidence of the Jews ever doing this to the Babylonians. They're just saying, happy be he that does that, because that's what you did to us. That's what it's saying there. It's more poetic language. It's not really a commandment, but it's to let us know that Babylon was evil and mean and harsh and cruel. In fact, that's one of the reasons why God turned on Babylon, and we'll find in Jeremiah, against the nations around Israel. Not only did they applaud what was happening to Israel in chastisement and wrath from God, but they joined in, and God didn't want them to do that. God was having wrath on Israel by himself. He didn't want them joining in, and then he judged them for how they treated him. We're going to see reminiscence of this when we get to 1 Kings chapter 2. when David is now passing the baton over to Solomon, but lets him know about these characters who need to be dealt with. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But we see this is very Babylonian. It's out of time. It's beautiful, but it's very dirgeful. It's mournful. It doesn't have any, it doesn't make any changes. There's no transformation. It's just a statement of feeling and fact. So look over 137 and see if these things are so. Going to Kings chapter 2, we have David is dying, and he's passing the baton to Solomon. And Solomon at this time hasn't asked for this wisdom of God yet. So he's still relying on David to kind of give him some ideas. David's got him in kind of training. But he seems to be catching on pretty quickly. He understands this idea, and he saw the conspiracies. He saw what his brothers did. He was there. Maybe he even went off with David and Bathsheba when Absalom was trying to take over Jerusalem. Now, I don't know if he did, but I always wondered, where was Solomon? Was he still in Jerusalem? But the odds are very strong that he went with David and his mom as they went off with off away from Absalom, and then they came back with Absalom. But here he's got that one's a little bit of a speculation, but we can also, by using grid work, from using this, I've said several times, make deductions, conclusions that are based upon connecting dots that weren't made. Wouldn't split a church over whether he was or not, but it seems more likely that he would have gone with David and back. So we have David here. He calls him over. He says, I'm going the way of the earth, but be strong and show thyself a man. Take charge. And he says in 3 and 4, reminding him to follow the commandments of God. And this is a promise that if you follow these commands, God will work with you and through you to always keep a man on the throne. There it says right there, the promise is, there shall not fall thee a man on the throne of Israel. So, but it's predicated on you following God, following his rules, his standards, and following him with your whole heart. Moreover, thou knowest what Joab did to me and to the 2 captains of the house of Israel, to Abner and to Amasa, that he shed blood of war in peacetime, that he murdered. It wasn't, what happens in the battlefield. He murdered those 2 men. And he put the blood of war upon his girdle, that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet. He went with bloodlust after these men for power. You're going to have to deal with him. Here's a conspirator. Here's a problem. So do for according to thy wisdom, but let not his hoar head, that's a gray hair, don't let his gray hair go down into the grave in peace. You're going to have to take care of Joab. He's a conspirator. He's a problem. We're cleaning house here, and the sins that were pushed off because of important things going on are now going to be dealt with. If we think Jesus is putting off and he doesn't care what's happening in our lives or in the life of our nation or the people of our nation, there'll come a judgment. There'll come a judgment day coming for nations, for individuals, for communities, and for individuals. He says, but show kindness unto the Barzillai. Remember him? He's the guy that brought all the stuff. He was 80 years old when David was out in the wilderness. And if Solomon was with him, Solomon saw the goodness of Barzillai and all the stuff and all the sheep and all the cheeses and all the fruits and all the cookware and beds and all the stuff that was provided for comfort if you're going to be out in the wilderness, tents, everything that they needed to survive. Show kindness to him and let him eat at your table, for so they came to me when I fled from Absalom. He brings up Shimei. Remember I mentioned Shimei earlier, the guy that cursed him and threw rocks. He didn't shed innocent blood or blood at all, but don't let him get away with cursing the king. He's got this heart. Therefore hold him not guiltless, even though I put him back, even though I put away from putting him to death. This is a different name, and we have that with Christ. Christ is the son of David, and he holds things off, but when he gets here in the second coming, there's going to be judgment for how people treated one another and things that were done. Unless you find forgiveness through the cross, your sins will find you out. Therefore hold him not guiltless, and know what thou oughtest do unto him, but his hoar head bring thou down to the grave with blood. You're going to have to take care of this guy. He's a conspirator. He's untrustworthy. David slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. So David reigned 40 years, 7 years in Hebron, and 33 years in Jerusalem. And Solomon took the throne right off the bat. No, here we have Solomon's just stepping right in. He's not wasting any time. We see Adonijah comes back into play. He first goes to Bathsheba, and he wants to ask something of Solomon. But he doesn't want to go straight to Solomon. He wants to do an end run. He'll get the queen. Well, not the queen, but he'll get the mother of the king to go in. I guess she would have been a queen. But the mother, excuse me, the mother of the king to come in and talk with the king. Now, Solomon has a heart for his mom. He's not a mama's boy. You'll find that he is a very, very strong individual here. But he also has high respect for the mother that he loves. He later on says, anything you ask of me, I'll do. Then he turns around and doesn't do it when he asks what he asked for in a minute. We're going to see that. But Adonijah comes to Bathsheba, and he says some interesting things. He goes, first she asks, do you come in peace? Now, that's a warning sign right now. This isn't somebody that's peaceful. This isn't, she was concerned about her welfare. And he goes, yes, I am. And she goes, well, okay. Thou knowest that the kingdom was mine, and that all Israel set their faces on me, that I should reign. Howbeit the kingdom has turned about, is now become my brother's, for it was his from the Lord. He's still holding a grudge. He's like Hillary Clinton in 2016, still holding that grudge. This was my kingdom. I deserved it. Here's what I've done. Here's what I should have, you know. And he's still holding this grudge. The people said I could have it. Well, the Lord said Solomon could have it. So he's still got this hardness of heart, but he wants Abishag. Now, Abishag is a beloved servant of David. When I use the word concubine there, I use it in a non-intimate sense. She's very, she had a specific role at a specific time. I'm sure Solomon is taking care of her. We don't know really what happens with her, but she's not somebody to be taken and just given to another person. And remember the problem we had when Reuben took one of the concubines. These people, these servants, I hate to say belonged to David, but they were a part of David's life. They were meaningful to David. They were meaningful to the kingdom at the level they were at. You don't give, your best goblet for somebody to just go drink beer out of. I'm not giving Abishag to someone like you. And you're going to use that and try to mold that to do your ambitions. You're hoping that you'll be Absalom, Solomon's thinking, and I'll be David. Now, I'm kind of speculating here. We find him turning against Absalom, and even Absalom, turning against Adonijah and taking his life over this very issue, over this, over this conspiratory nature. I'm drawing some conclusions here, I know, and I have always said, don't draw conclusions, be careful. Well, be careful how you look at this. But some of this stuff you kind of have to do a little bit. I know that I use the idea of a crime scene. Sometimes it comes to a point where you've got to make a declaration. Okay, the shoe print matches the victim. So that means, you've got to go with the cigarette butt has the DNA of the suspect. You have to draw some inferences by seeing, logical conclusions. It looks like the man walked into the alley from the left and exited from the right. Okay. We have to do those things with these things when you get to this level and beyond. But I'm going to try to keep it clear, keep my conclusions away from suppositions. So, drawing the conclusion that we're going to see that he's asking for Abishag, and Bathsheba says, I'll talk to the king. So she goes to see the king, and I like his demeanor here. She comes in, he rose to meet her, and he bowed himself unto her and sat down and caused a seat for the king's mother. Now, it doesn't say queen here. I misspoke. Might have been David's queen. It's not his queen. He has no queen right now. I don't know if he ever had a queen. He had wives. I don't know if he ever had a queen. I don't think he did. But she did not co-rule with him. She was a counselor. She was a wise woman. In fact, I believe that there are a lot of the Proverbs come from David, him counseling with David, but I think a lot of them, especially 31, come from inferences from his mother. I think a lot of the stuff that the imagery of the woman whose wisdom calling, I think that imagery is Bathsheba. Why didn't you make wisdom in Proverbs an old man with a long white beard, like Zadok the priest or somebody like that? Okay, that would have worked in the imagery, but he uses this woman's wisdom as a woman calling out into the street. I believe she was strong, she was feminine, and she wasn't trying to take power. And he had high respect for her, but he wasn't a mama's boy. In fact, you'll find out, like he says, um, I pray that he says, and the king says, say on, and he goes, that I'll give you anything you want, and I will not say nay. That's what the king has said. So he's already said, I'm going to say, not going to say no, but then he turns around and says no. Let Abishag the Shumanite be given to Adonijah. And Adonijah was an enemy of the throne. Even though he was a brother, he brought him back into Jerusalem. He was still an enemy. And he gets mad. Why do you ask Abishag for Adonijah? Ask him the kingdom also. Excuse me. For he is my older brother, even for him, and for Abiathar the priest, and for Joab. If you're going to ask things for my enemies, go ahead and line up my enemies and ask things for them. And he gets very angry. God do it to me and more so if Adonai hadn't spoken this word against his own life. He should have known he was an enemy of the king. He thought he could walk in and ask things from the king. He could have come in contrition. Adonijah never repented. He was afraid for his life. He ran to, when Solomon took power, he ran to the altar and grabbed it and pleaded for his life. And Solomon showed his mercy, but there was no, I'm sorry for trying to take over. I'm sorry for being, trying to get these conspire against you, get these people to conspire against you. Please forgive me, dear king. It's none of that. He still has all of that. We saw it earlier in his heart. I should have been king. And now he wants this, a little bit of leverage, this little bit of something that he can start once again conspiring. And Solomon sees this and cuts it right to the quick. So he goes, therefore, as the Lord has established me and set me on the throne of David, as he promised Adonijah shall be put to death. And Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, and he fell upon Adonijah and killed him. Solomon's not wasting any time. This is who you're going to be. You're out. And then he goes ahead and takes care of Abiathar. Remember, Abiathar was with David when David left Absalom, but Abiathar jumped ship and went over with Adonijah, with Joab. And that didn't go well. So he starts judging Abiathar. He says, get thee to Anathoth unto thine own fields, for thou art worthy of death, but I will not at this time put thee to death, because you bear the ark of the Lord with David my father. Thou hast been afflicted, and whereas my father was afflicted. So you ran with my father. When he was afflicted, you were afflicted. I'm going to show respect for that. But you can't be a priest anymore. Go to your own town. Stay there. And remember, this was also a part of the curse of Eli. Abiathar was of the house of Eli. And remember, Eli's house got cursed. You will not set in power. Is that he might fulfill the word of the Lord with Eli. So he got rid of Abiathar. Then he sends tidings, I love that word there, like it sounds like it's good news to Joab, that he turned against him and forged an alliance with Adonijah. He didn't stand with God's man, which was Solomon, when he knew it was going to be Solomon. So, and Joab fled to the temple, and he's got the horns of the altar. He thinks that worked for Adonijah, it worked for him, but Solomon's done. Solomon is done with this guy, because he has shed innocent blood in wartime, in peacetime. He killed Amasa, he killed Abner, and he was a conspirator with Adonijah. And so he sends Benaiah to get him. He goes, I'm not leaving. He sends Benaiah again, and he goes, no, and he's clenching all the horns, but this time it's not going to work. And the king said, do as he had said, fall upon him, and bury him, that thou mayest take away the innocent blood that Joab shed. The innocent blood needed to be taken care of. And it wasn't in the time of David because of wartime and all the political stuff. But now we're cleaning house and cleaning things up. And so, okay, Joab gets his comeuppance. Benaiah goes and kills him. And the Lord shall return his blood upon his own head, who fell 2 righteous men. He talks about Abner and Amasa. And the blood that will be returned on the head of Joab. and upon his seed forever. But upon David and his seed, and upon his house, there shall be peace. Again, this is the idea of the blood would be on their house, but there would be now peace on the house of David. So Benaniah did this and fell on him. And they made Zadok the priest over Abiathar. So he's got Zadok back in place. And he goes over and he's talking to Shemiah now. Remember the guy that threw the rocks. He didn't kill anybody, but you disdained and you cursed at the king. That was not right. So he tells him that, here, go stay over here, live in Jerusalem. But the day you go out of Jerusalem and go across the Kidron Valley, you're going to die. So I'm going to give you this. It's like a city of refuge. Jerusalem will be your city of refuge. So Shimei can stay in there. Okay, he'll be fine, and he's got all of his good, his families. He's got his little business going. He can live there. But what happened is after 3 years, he gets a little bit, bored. He thinks the king won't do anything. He thinks the king will be soft. So he has some of his servants go down to the land of the Philistines. So what's he do? He gets his mules and some servants. He goes down out of Jerusalem, past the Kidron Valley, into the Philistines to get his servants back. Well, guess what happens? Solomon hears about this and drags him in. Did I not make thee swear to the Lord God, and thou protestest unto thee, saying, knowing for certain that on the day you walk out and walk abroad, that you will surely die? And you knew this. So he holds him accountable. You knew that if you left this, you were going to die. Why then hast thou not kept the oath of the Lord and the commandment that I charge thee? So the king said moreover to Shimei, thou knowest all the wickedness which thine heart is privy to, that thou didst to David my king. Wherefore the Lord shall return thy wickedness upon thine own head, and Solomon shall be blessed, and the throne of David shall be established. And the king commanded Benaniah, and he went and fell upon him, and he died, and the kingdom was established. He took care of his enemies. When Christ comes back and is a Solomon, he's going to take care of his enemies. There is peace. There is no war. The only problem happens later when the king decides to give in to pagan idolatry. That's when things go bad. But while he's following, like I said, Jerusalem is having its golden era at this time. The monuments, the houses, the military, the beauty, all this stuff we're going to see that he gets. He's lifted up into grandeur more than any other king. He's considered the greatest king of this entire planet. There's not a place, not a person who rivals Solomon in any of the other cultures, in any of the other histories, even past the pharaohs. And so we'll see what happens with Solomon. I'm not trying to kick at his personality. I'm just stating facts that are coming along the way. But right now, he is established. He took care of his enemies. And when Christ comes back, he's not, like I said, he's not going to have kids on his knee. He's going to take care of his enemies. And he's going to establish his kingdom just like this. Be on the good side. Accept his grace. Follow him. Or things will be very, very bad for a very, 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 very long time.